Hi folks, and thanks for joining us on this webinar. Ellie Goldratt, considered the father of constraints, the theory of constraints, came up with a very simple phrase that really seems to epitomize what we run into in process work, is that any process improvement except at the bottleneck is illusionary. My name is Rich Basel. I'm a solutions consultant with Simtrax. And we've identified through our customers who have told us some of the bottlenecks that they've run into in an SAP environment for their supply chain documents. This is the first of a series of webinars. They're going to address some of those bottlenecks. We're going to focus in this particular webinar on the creation of labels, shipping labels, and the changes in the increasing complexity of shipping labels and how it's been impacting some of our customers, and hopefully we can be of help to you as well. Quick overview of Simtrax so you know who we're dealing with, but then we're going to get right into the issue, and that's identifying the problem. Where do we hear from our customers some of the problems that they're having? We're going to discuss our approach to solving that problem and how we implement that approach. We're going to do it with a series of both slides and live demos. The live demos are going to focus on a couple of the different situations that we've come across in our customer base who are SAP users. Being efficient in on-demand labels, dealing with localized regulatory and customer requirements, and the ability to adapt to change. Those are the areas that we've heard are bottlenecks in their process, and that's what we're going to be looking to clear up for them. Simtrax, we're a global company, headquartered in Nimes, but with data centers in Los Angeles, Nimes, and Mumbai, and sales offices in Boston, where I'm located, London, and Waldorf as well. We are an SAP partner as well as an IBM and Microsoft partner. We're hardly a startup. We've got over 4,000 customers worldwide in two very related areas in terms of our solution set. The document output management side is what we're going to focus on now, but we also do some business intelligence and reporting tools. If you're interested in those, love to have a chance to chat with you. But for today's topic, we're going to focus on the document output management solutions. There may be some of you out there who are old enough to remember the old car commercial that the tagline was "Not your father's Oldsmobile." In many respects, that holds true with shipping labels. They're certainly not your father's shipping labels, if you will. There have been a lot of changes. At one point in time, you put an address where it was going, a shipping address where it was shipped from, and you put it on the package, and you were off and running. But now there are a lot of challenges that have come about, both from internal factors and from the external side. Business requirements, marketing is realizing that labels are a chance to do some branding. You've made some changes in your own supply chain software that needs to be tracked, and the ability to track things with barcodes has become more and more prevalent. Warehouses have become more automated. The shipping labels are reflecting that. But also your customers. We have one of our customers who is now doing some shipping for Amazon, who's got some very, very stringent requirements in terms of how the labels have to be done, both on the outgoing labels and return labels, and need to focus on that. And as Amazon is wont to do, they also do have changes. You're also going to find regulatory requirements. And matter of fact, one of our demos is going to focus on the requirement of the Food and Drug Administration and FDA labels, but that holds true in virtually, I'd say almost every vertical, that there are going to be regulations. There are also shipping regulations that are not just U.S. based, but country based. You're going to be shipping outside the U.S. borders. You have to meet their regulations, their requirements in terms of labels. So those are the things we're going to look at. How do you meet those challenges? Well, if the labels are going to be more and more complex and the speed of business is increasing, you're going to have to be more productive. You're also going to have to provide flexibility, because you're going to need different labels for different locations, different verticals. You're going to be able to have to make those labels in one swoop look different and act different because the requirements are different. But you're also going to have to be agile, because there are changes. Customers make changes, Regulations certainly change, and you're going to have to make those changes as quickly as possible to keep up with the changing environment. We're going to look first at the productivity issue. Traditionally, if you were using some sort of on-demand label printing, documents would come down from various sources. In shipping, they'd then have to sit there and manually enter the information, and that becomes a bottleneck. That becomes a bottleneck anytime you have to have manual steps as opposed to automated steps. But the bottleneck becomes even more important because it slows down the process. It reduces the time you have to get things on shipped and get it ready to go. One of the things we find is that with Compleo and putting the Compleo suite there, if you need on-demand documents, barcoding that can come out of the Compleo suite can be quickly scanned. There's the recognition of what type of label has to go with each order. Compleo has the intelligence behind it that now it can grab that order number and produce the right label for the right circumstances. Things are shipped quicker. We also hear that on-demand printing is not always the way people want to go. They want to go with things that are triggered from SAP directly, rather than have their shipping department create the labels on an on-demand basis. They want the application to do it, and we certainly support that. Any ABAP application with inserting just 2 lines of code can trigger the Compleo suite to appropriately create the right label for the right time. Because the truth is, these ships, these trucks, these planes are not going to wait for your labels. Each time you have a delay of a minute or 2 for each label, that can add up to hours of delay and could even cost you a day or 2 in shipping. So productivity has got to be one of the keys that people are looking at. Give you a little bit more detailed view of this, how this works. On the on-demand side, the document is scanned in shipping. It goes to what we call our remote agent. Our remote agent will then communicate into the data center where your Compleo supervisor, one of our other modules, resides. Now, Compleo supervisor will be able to communicate directly with our RFC connector. That's a remote function call connector specific for SAP. It's a binary communication, so it will actually get the number, the product number, the order number, whatever unique identifier you choose to have it pull, and then it will talk to SAP and say, for this order, we need certain bits of data. And it will then pull that data out of the SAP modules and then return that data back to supervisor. When supervisor's got the appropriate amount of data that it's looking for, it then sends it to another one of our modules, Compleo Designer. The template that's built in Designer will now be able to be populated and then sent to the printer, if it's going to be a printer, and it can be a laser printer. We also do nice label printing for those of you using Zebra printers for high-speed printing, or it can go back and have it be reviewed by the agent in shipping. So that's one of the processes if you're going to do on-demand printing. If you're going to do SAP triggered printing, it's very similar. It just starts at a different place. SAP now sends a message to Compleo supervisors saying, we need to do this label. Some people use, for example, a ship date. If it's a ship complete date, it then tells Compleo supervisor, this one's ready to go, and gives it the number. Compleo says, for that shipment number, we go back to SAP and say, these are the functions we need to gather. This is the information we need to gather. And again, once it gathers the information, it then sends it to the template. It creates the label that goes back, and it can either be printed directly or it can be reviewed again by somebody in shipping before it's printed. That's your option, whatever works for you folks. Now, having said that, let's take a look at that in action. And to do that, let's get out of the presentation. And for those folks who didn't know it, one of the advantages of the webinar, you get a free, although virtual, trip to France. Because now, as I mentioned, we have a data center in France, and we're going to be using their instance of SAP. So we are now on the French data center. If you'll notice it, it's FR sales, or French sales for us folks. And we're going to run an on-demand solution. Now, for the demo and for This webinar will probably be working almost exclusively with the on-demand solution because frankly we can't crack open SAP, our server, and show you what's happening inside. So we're going to work it from an on-demand perspective. So let me put in an order number and we'll show you what happens. And then we'll start peeling away the onion and show you a little bit more detail in terms of how it works. Put in an order number. Now, we can do it with a scanner, but I obviously have to enter it because you can't see the scanner from there. So I entered the number. It then validated. It's now gone onto SAP, and a relatively simple but very quick process produces that label. What I want to do is I want to run through this once more, and I talked about SAP's connection with Supervisor. So let's watch what Supervisor does. So let's put the same number in again and get that started up again. And while we're doing that, we're going to go over to the process side of SAP, Supervisor, and we're going to run it again. What you'll see, and I'll get over there once I validate it, is you'll watch it being produced and watch what's happening within Supervisor. Now, if you see, it's starting to turn green. The label's being printed. It's all green, and the label showed up again. What's happened in the background, let me click on this and give you a view of what's happened in the background. All these things, as the process has been told, we need this particular label. Let's go to SAP, and we've gone to the label, and we've asked for the information that particular label requires. We've run the template from Compleo Designer. We've done all the design calls, and we brought the information and made it available and created a label. Let's go a little bit deeper into this and take a look at what happened inside of SAP in the process. Here you want to see we've made this call and we've called these functions from SAP. This is a small demo. It's a small label that we printed, so there was a limited number of BAPIs that we can go to, and we have requested all of them to join it. And I'll show you a little bit more about how that goes about in another demo. But as you see, you can get a view into the entire BAPI selection, and it's a matter of checking the box to select the ones you want. And since this is our demo site, and people will get very upset if I don't cancel things out because I do make changes in it, you can see just by running that and running the Compleo scenario, you have a set of commands that you can run beyond the template, and all these are within the template auspices. So we've gone through, we've shown you where Supervisor has picked it up, what Supervisor has done, and what's happened inside Supervisor and inside the process. Having said that, let's go back to our presentation and look at some of the other ways that we've been helping people out. Flexibility. We talked about flexibility as one of the keys because what works in one country and may work in another country may no longer work in a third country. You have to be very specific. You'll see how specific these things can be and how we can actually understand and use constraints and considerations in the ability to create templates that are actually intelligent enough to decide which country they're going to and act accordingly. Because if you put Compleo in the middle, we understand where the changes have to be, and we're able to get it so it's the right label, so things don't sit on the docks. Now, the one we're going to be showing you is an FDA-approved label, and particularly areas like that, where it's foodstuff, sitting on the dock for an extra day or two could cost an entire shipment. But even if it's not something that's got a spoilage issue, just delaying getting it to your customer is not the kind of customer service that your company wants to provide. So let's go to the second demo and out of the presentation again and back to France. Now, in this case, I'm going to call up another product. Let me just get the number right on it. that was the old one. And let's validate. Here we go. And now you'll notice this meets FDA approval. We're shipping from the U.S. to another company within the U.S. We have the appropriate barcodes, the appropriate size. We have it in the metrics in pounds, and all the information, and this is required by the FDA, that all the shipping information are plainly seen on the label. Now, because it's shipped to an American company, from an American company, it's all in English. And that's great. That's the way it should be. But that's not always where you're shipping. Sometimes you're going to be shipping to other countries. And since we are an international company, and since we are in France right now virtually, let's ship the same set of goods to France. And let's show you what happens. What's happened is the ship to is now France. We've put in the consideration that look at the name of the country, and depending on the name of the country, it knew a couple things to do. It said, first of all, they don't use pounds, they use kilograms. So we've changed the metrics from pounds to kilograms. But we've also added a field where now not only do we have it in English because that's where it's being shipped from, but we have the shipping instructions in French because that's where it's been shipped to. Being able to have that flexibility means the people in shipping don't have to worry about knowing these things. These are not an issue for them. It's baked into the template. You're going to have your shipping date. It's going to pick up a country if that's what you needed to do. Anything in the data can be a variable, but let's put it in as a country. And now, since it's France, it knows to put it in French. We can do any country you want as long as we have the translations into your SAP. So, once again, we'll go back to the presentation and look at that third area that we talked about. We've talked about creating a more productive environment. We've talked about creating a very flexible environment so the same products can be shipped to multiple countries without a lot of effort. But let's talk about flexibility, because the ability to adapt and be agile is critical, because what worked today may not work tomorrow. Changes are coming about. They could be regulatory changes, they could be customer changes, but with putting Compleo in, you're able to rapidly make changes within the structure so the labels you produce are the labels you need and you can get there faster, because now the new set of requirements are there and it ships as you want. This is one of the examples. We had a customer of ours called Nuvafirm. This was their shipping label. Now, their requirements were not regulatory, but a customer requirement that said that's not sufficient. Not only did their customer require some issues, but marketing said as long as we're going to make changes, let's put a logo in. Now, if they had to do this strictly with ABAP programming, not only would it be time consuming, but from a resource perspective, it would be pretty expensive. Let's go back to France and take a look at the demo and how we can change it very quickly within the Compleo environment. Close this down. We'll call up another template and we'll validate. And now here's our template again. A little bit different, but still meeting the requirements of FDA. And that's fine. But now marketing's come and said, you know, you've got some blank space there. Let's put our logo in. The new warehouse requirements say that's no longer a valid SKU. We've got to change the barcode and the SKU in this. These are just a couple of the changes that you might come across. And how are you going to do that? How can you do that if you're going to have to rely on somebody doing ABAP programming? Well, let's close this out and let's go over to the designer. This is where we build our templates that supervisor is going to be talking with. This is something that's similar to what we pull from directly from SAP. It's just an XML file. We now call up the template that we used for that particular label, and you see there's our final view, but it's not complete because we said we wanted a logo. Well, we just hit the image, show where we want to put it, browse within our local file, and lo and behold, if we scroll down, there's our logo. Hit OK, and now the graphics are there. A couple clicks, and you've now satisfied marketing's requirement. But what about the new inventory system that says that SKU is no longer valid? Let's delete the current one and say, well, let's put a new barcode in. Make sure it's the type we want. In this case, it's a 128 barcode. And let's hit that again and put the location in. And now we want to check the variables. What do we want? I'll make that a little larger so you can see it. We want to look in, and this is the same XML file, and we'll just scroll up to find a new product code. And it should be in the next group. We've lost it. And there we go. Now, by doing this, this is now a variable, which means as this varies, whatever comes in the next XML file, it will pick that up and create the barcode there. And now you've got your barcode, your labeling, you've got your new logo on there. We can make changes to any one of these, and it's just a matter of a few clicks. We now save this since we want to save our template, and let's run it again. And just as quickly as I ran through it in a couple clicks, we now have a logo, we have a new barcode. Any of these could be changed, any of this can be changed with just a matter of a few clicks. No ABAP programming. You saw it was just drag and drop, the skill level, the time, the ability to adapt. That's critical. So, meanwhile, back at our presentation, and I think we've covered most of the areas we've talked about. So let's take a quick review. Increase productivity. We want to reduce the manual steps it takes to produce the labels. But not just producing simple labels, we want to increase the productivity, but also improve the flexibility to create labels that fit the circumstance, whether it's a regulatory change, a localized change, a customer change. And you also want to have agility, the ability to adapt to change right away. Now, we've been talking mostly about labels at this point, but let's go back to that customer we showed you earlier, NovaFirm. Labeling was a part of it. It was a big part of it, but it's not the only part of it. They were able to create the entire new set of documents for a customer meeting specific customer requirements, and we're up and running in well less than 3 months using the Compleo suite. And the reason I bring this up, because we're also, as I said, this is a series of webinars. We're able to take them from a delivery note that looks like that to something like that. And that's going to be the topic of the next set of webinars. Not only are we talking about labels, but the entire set of supply chain documents, order forms, quotes, invoicing. These will be topics for next time, so hopefully you'll tune in and watch and see how we do those as well. In the interim, are there any questions? Oh, great. Appreciate your time, and I want to thank you very much. A couple things to remind you. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, email, phone. But if you want to download a free trial of the entire Compleo suite, just go to simtrax.com. You can download a 15-day free trial. And if you have any questions on it, give me a buzz. Happy to talk to you, and I want to thank you very much for your time.